Thanks for tuning in to WLUW. My name is DJ Sing Slow. You are listening to interviews from Iceland Airwaves. So first I want to welcome you, and I wanted to start the interview by asking you your background in general and your background as an artist for people who don't know you.
I come from Iceland, Reykjavik, Vesturbær, which is like the downtown. I'm raised by a single mother. I'm half Dutch, so my father is from Holland, the Netherlands, so my mom had me in Iceland, moved to Holland to finish her study there, and then when I was like around 2 years old, I moved back to Iceland away from my dad, and she raised me up, and like, of course, like life is, sometimes there can be like a stepdad and back and forth, but there's one man that's I have to say it in a way though, so it doesn't seem complicated, but like I have a little sister, which is my mother is her mother, but her dad is like not my dad.
Right.
But he is like the closest thing probably to a dad to me, but because like he works with me on the videos, the music videos and stuff. He's like a cinematographer.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so he shoots my videos and stuff. But yeah, my background is basically just I grew up in Iceland and I'm half Dutch, but I never met my father. So that's my background, and then I used to play football, soccer.
Yeah.
Play piano a little bit.
Yeah, so how did you get into music? How did you start getting into music?
Yeah, it's probably because my mom listens to a lot of music, like like a broad section of music. She listens to a lot of indie music, and like she was a punker in punk when she was younger. So I took a lot from there, and then I played the piano when I was younger, and it's just probably since I was young I always wanted to have a mark on the world in some way, but when I was younger I didn't really know what it was going to be, but today it's what I'm doing now.
Cool.
Yeah.
So by rapping in Icelandic, the Icelandic language opposed to rapping in English, how does that set you apart from other Icelandic artists? Not just hip hop artists, but also like singer-songwriters and things of that nature.
I don't know. I think it's just the biggest reason why it sets me apart from anyone in the world is because Iceland is very small and not many people know the language. And probably like, I don't know, maybe 360 to 400,000 people might know the language, but there's only like 350,000 people living here.
Right.
So that's the biggest difference, and I don't know, I can't really tell what other differences it is. It's just like it's hard for me to see it.
Right. So do you think that gives you like an advantage in the music industry, or do you think it's a disadvantage?
It's both. It's usually it's like usually more of a disadvantage because there's way less people that understand the music than if I would do it in English.
Right.
But it's an advantage when it's like you coming to me because it's unique.
Right. No,
that's the advantage. So if you go to the sweet spot of being Icelandic, you might come through on top. But it's not easy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true. So, what are you talking about in your songs for people who aren't Icelandic speakers? So, for myself, how would you explain what you're talking about?
Basically, all my lyrics are about some kind of or most of my lyrics are about some kind of a inner struggle or something like that. And I talk about, I often mention my flaws in my songs, but then I usually make the songs turn into like a solution or a positive way of seeing things. So it's kind of usually it's a journey of takk fyrir, takk, gaman að sjá þig. Usually it's a journey of kind of going down a little bit and then just like building yourself up, and the hooks are usually the things that brings the solutions.
Right. That are positive.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of like I always think of my lyrics, you know, in the back of my head. I think of it as someone that thinks the same as me and can relate. Because like a lot of people feel some type of way but can't talk to anyone about it, but they hear it in the music and then they might feel some support.
Right. So are you pretty vulnerable in your tracks?
Yeah, very. Yeah, I'm probably one of the most vulnerable artists.
So you think you're more vulnerable than a lot of other Icelandic hip hop artists?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
That's another advantage, right?
Yeah, it can be, but sometimes you know it's like following the you know it can be hard. Sometimes people don't want to hear it. You know, I have to make it in a way so that people want to hear it because, for example, let's take Wluw, for example. He writes songs that are usually very meaningful, but sometimes, like, those songs are not the type of songs that some like big rapper wants to listen to in the club or something like that, and that's understandable. But he has done a great job of like I'm not like trashing him. I mean, just like it's very hard to be in like a party or something and play that type of track. You know what I mean? But I want to try to make that type of track in a party. You know what I mean? Like he has done it with like thrift shop and stuff like that.
Right.
So that's why I'm not trashing it. It's like he's very smart thinking it, and yeah, I don't know. That's the hard part of being like vulnerable. Sometimes it's too soft, you know. But I don't want to be that. I try to bring out more. Like in my song Meira, it's a song about always wanting more. So that's like I'm sometimes screaming in the song and stuff. So it's like, so that yeah. But I always have to write about some true feeling, you know. It's very hard for me to write about, something different than a true feeling.
Right. It seems like you're very genuine in your songs.
Yeah, I'm a very genuine and honest person.
That's good.
That's probably the qualities about me.
That's awesome.
But sometimes it
sometimes it hurts.
Yeah, I can hurt other people without noticing, and I can be really hurt because I'm so open, you know.
Right. So who are you listening to right now, music-wise, not just in hip-hop?
Yeah, I don't know. I of course listen mostly to hip-hop, but I like putting on, you know, I really like the Blonde record by Frank Ocean, and I like the Flower Boy by Tyler the Creator, and you know I look towards I like Tame Impala, and you know and like Mac DeMarco and stuff like that. But not only that, but it's like that's the kind of music I really like to maybe, you know, put on, because you know my ears are always like getting annoyed by something. I'm always listening to new beats or like checking out new, because like there's so many hip hop tracks coming in. I'm always like, so nowadays I kind of just like check them out to know the sound and know what they're doing and maybe learn from it, but I don't then like listen to it more. So when I want to listen to music, I usually put on something that's a little bit like helps me maybe relax or go into another place.
Right. So you mentioned this earlier with your ADD or ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
How does that influence your music? Is it a disadvantage to your music? Do you get off track sometimes, or is it an advantage?
I think it's probably advantage. I think that's why I'm so focused.
Right.
Because like, I think that's why I'm so focused on. I don't know. I don't know if it's like a part of the ADHD, but I feel like, you know, I think it might be a symptom when you do something, you know, you really want to do or really like, you get like super focused. So I'm always super focused on music, like. So I think that's just the quality. But if you talk to me about politics or math or shit like that, you just if you would ask me a math question, I would instantly zone out. It's very weird, but it just happens.
Right. Cool. Well, the last question that I'll ask you is like we were talking about earlier before the interview, is many people in the music industry in Iceland have been talking about like the invasion of Icelandic hip hop in the US and the UK and the EU specifically. How do you think this is going to go over, considering you're white? opposed to like the American like urban audience.
Yeah,
Have you thought about that?
You said considering I'm white.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't matter really. It's just like, I mean, usually people would say it's an advantage to be white because just look at the history. It's always an advantage, even in rap music or something. But I've never looked at it that way. If being white or black matters at all. I think it's all about just if you make good music and people see. I think for every person in the world, if people can tell this is what you're about, they will just like it that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, that's all I had for you. Thanks so much for making time for me.
Yes, of course, man.
Appreciate it.